Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books. Let's get started.
Today we are undertaking a deep dive into Virginia Evans's really powerful novel, The Correspondent.
And this isn't just an ordinary story. It's a masterclass in character, and it's revealed entirely through letters, emails, notes, all the correspondence of its protagonist, Sybil Van Antwerp.
Right, so our mission today is to walk you through Sybil's journey pretty much chronologically.
We're going to be pulling out the key moments, focusing on how this fiercely independent, witty, retired lawyer uses the written word to build her entire life.
And eventually to tear it all down and rebuild it.
Exactly.
So we meet Sybil in June 2012. She's just turning 73, and her life in Annapolis is defined by this really rigorous, almost sacred discipline.
We're talking Irish breakfast tea, an immaculately organized desk.
Counting her stamps even, and writing letters religiously, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes Saturday. The novel is so clear about this. Her correspondence is her manner of living.
It's so much more than a habit, isn't it? It's a defense mechanism.
Oh, absolutely. The formality of a letter, choosing the paper, the stamp, it all creates this safe boundary between her and the chaos of the world. She controls everything.
The narrative, the vulnerability, all of it.
And through this curated communication, we immediately meet her key people. First, there's her adopted brother, Felix Stone, who lives in France.
And she loves the idea of France, but she is wonderfully dismissive of actually going to visit him.
Totally. The hassle of flying, the security lines, the little bottles of cream, it's just completely incompatible with her ordered world.
And then there's Harry Landy. He's the clever young son of an old colleague.
And this relationship is so important because Harry is the first person who holds one of her real secrets. Her stones, as they call them.
Right. Harry's dealing with his own stuff, a new psychiatrist and all that, so he becomes this unlikely young confidant for her.
He's the vessel for that first real crack in her fortress. Sybil is fiercely private, but she trusts this kid with the knowledge that she has a pre-existing condition diagnosed by Dr. Jameson that is causing impending blindness.
And that diagnosis really hangs over everything. It also puts her career into context. I mean, this is a woman who was a renowned lawyer, spent decades as a clerk with Judge Guy Donnelly.
Yeah, and when she gets criticized later for, quote, falling behind him as a lowly clerk, her defense is just epic.
It really tells you everything about her priorities, doesn't it?
It does. She wasn't ambitious for, fame or titles. She was ambitious for intellectual rigor. She deliberately chose that symbiosis with Donnelly, seeing herself as his intellectual counterpart.
And for a woman in the law world in the 70s, that kind of respect was probably rarer than a promotion.
Exactly. She valued being essential over being famous. She found order in the law.
But fate doesn't care about good paper stock. Her whole constructed life starts to just unravel in 2012 when she totals her Cadillac.
After this terrifying moment of what she calls vision deletion. It's not just an accident. It's a physical sign of her deepest fear.
She knows the blinding is underway. And the biggest secret she keeps is the truth of her condition from her own adult children, Bruce and Fiona.
As we move into 2013, that instability in her sight just mirrors the instability in her personal life. Suddenly, this woman, who's been single for years, has two very different suitors.
Okay, so first we have Mick Watts. He's a retired attorney from Texas. She meets at Donnelly's memorial.
And Mick is loud. He's relentless, all about the whip-smart banter. He starts pursuing her, sending flowers, even after she flat-out rejects him for dinner.
He's kind of the embodiment of the world she left behind.
For sure. And then you have Theodore Lubeck, her German neighbor. Total opposite.
Right, at first she judges him, thinks he looks like a renegade from the lawless fringe of the American West.
But he communicates through these quiet gestures. He brings her roses every year, leaves homemade cakes and tins on her doorstep. He's the anti-Mick.
But the real stress, of course, comes from her family. At Christmas 2013, her son, Bruce, gives her a Kindred Project DNA test.
And Sybil is absolutely furious. Her reaction is fascinating. She feels humiliated, like it's an attempt to investigate her adopted status, treating her like an alien life form.
It's the ultimate violation of control for her, isn't it? She has defined herself by her mind and her work, not her biology.
Exactly. And this family strain just gets worse. Her daughter, Fiona, is texting from Sydney, worried about Sybil's driving.
And she suggests Sybil sell the house and move into a nursing home?
Which, as you can imagine, prompts an explosive refusal. Giving up the house is giving up her independence, which is all tied up in her writing routine.
So the narrative takes a much darker turn as we get closer to 2015. She writes to her friend Rosalie about her ex-husband, Dan Van Antwerp. He has cancer.
And this forces her to reflect on their marriage, which dissolved after the death of their son Gilbert, who died when he was only 8.
That trauma is the core of everything. She says she disappeared from the family. She just threw herself into the destruction of her work.
Her whole career, which she saw as a professional choice, was really a coping mechanism for this unspeakable guilt.
So when Dan dies in Belgium in late 2015, Fiona just blows up Sybil's inbox.
A furious email, criticizing Sybil for not attending the funeral and revealing that Dane had written to Sybil, waiting for a reply that never came.
Fiona just can't see the massive emotional walls her mother has built.
And right in the middle of this emotional storm, the harassment starts. She gets this vicious letter signed only DM, expressing hatred, wishing for her death.
What's so scary about it is that it specifically mentions her waterfront house and links the grudge to her career.
So her past is literally coming to her front door to threaten her future.
Okay, so let's pivot to 2016 because this is where things start to shift. Allies step in, secrets unravel. Theodore Lubeck really becomes essential here.
Almost by accident. In February 2016, he startles her on her river path. She falls and ends up with a broken wrist and a sprained ankle.
And she must have been mortified. He has to drive her to the ER, people assuming he's her husband.
Oh, a total loss of control over her own image. But then the dynamic changes. Later that year, he writes her a note confessing he was the one who killed her dahlias with his car.
Such a small thing, but it's a huge admission.
It is. It makes Sybil realize he has this quiet, hidden depth, a willingness to admit his mistakes, which is something she really struggles with.
Meanwhile, that kindred test she resisted for so long finally starts giving her some answers.
Right. She learns she's half British, a quarter Native American, and a quarter Bits. And for the first time, she's letting biology into her self-made identity.
And this is where she gets an unlikely ally in technology. She connects with Bassam Mansour, a Syrian engineer working for Kindred Customer Service.
Bassam becomes her lifeline. He helps her navigate the system, maybe bending the rules a little, and he finds the huge breakthrough.
Which is?
He tells her she has a shocking 49% DNA match with a woman named Henrietta Gleeson in Fort William, Scotland.
49%.
That strongly suggests they're full sisters, meaning Sybil, the woman who felt like an alien life form, had a family, and then Bassam is promptly fired.
Oh, of course. But who swoops in to connect the dots?
Harry Landy, her stoneholder. In September 2016, he comes to stay with her to convalesce after a suicide attempt.
And their bond, built on this shared vulnerability, really pays off.
Harry is extremely clever. He's a digital native. He gets online and finds Henrietta, Hattie, and confirms the sisterhood theory.
But he doesn't stop there, does he?
No. He also uses his skills to research the hostile DM notes, and he links them back to a decades-old case involving a man named Enzo Martinelli.
So he gives her the key, the address of Enzo's son, Desi Martinelli.
It's a beautiful arc, really. The young man she protected with her secrets now empowers her to confront the secrets of her past.
Which brings us to this really crucial final section. Sybil realizes she has to deal with the weight of her past before her sight completely runs out.
So she writes to Desi Martinelli, Enzo's son, the source of the DM notes.
And this letter isn't just an apology. It's a full-on confession of professional cruelty that was rooted in her personal agony.
Yeah, she admits she remembered his family's visit to the judge's chambers, and she tells him her eyes were cold and dead and cruel because she hated his mother.
But why? What was the reason?
Because Desi's mother had 2 perfect, healthy sons, and Sybil was still reeling from Gilbert's death just weeks before. She admits her grief was so powerful that she deliberately withheld mercy from their family. She just transferred her rage onto them.
Wow. And Desi writes back.
He does. And this is so essential for her. He confesses he was the harasser, DM, but then he tells her that his rage just kind of dissolved after he saw her figure, a small old woman sitting alone in her window.
He realized the person he hated was suffering too.
Exactly. And that confession paves the way for her reconciliation with Fiona, but it's really her friend Rosalie who pushes it forward.
Rosalie writes this pivotal letter, right?
Mm-hmm. She apologizes for hiding that Fiona had come to visit, and she explains Fiona's own pain, her grief over infertility, and her anger at Sybil's emotional absence.
And Rosalie just tells her straight. She says, Fiona does not need me, she needs you.
The message is clear. The wall has to come down. Now, so Sybil finally writes this penitent letter to Fiona, confessing the guilt after Gilbert's death, explaining that her withdrawal created a force field of distance because she was terrified to be a mother again.
And while all this family drama is restructuring, the romantic plot hits its peak. Mick Watts proposes.
Formally proposes marriage, wants her to move to Texas, and she's conflicted. She enjoys the banter, but to uproot her entire life.
And then Theodore confesses his feelings in his own quiet way.
He reveals he cuts her roses every year to celebrate her birthday, but May 29th is also the anniversary of his father and brother's death in the Holocaust. He carries this deep guilt that he didn't offer his brother safe passage.
So they're bound by this parallel history of hidden grief and guilt.
And Sybil, the woman who hated travel and chaos, finally embraces both. In April 2019, she uses her inheritance to book a first-class flight to London.
And Fiona drives her to Fort William to meet Hattie.
The 49% match is confirmed. Hattie fills in the blanks about their birth mother, Louisa, and their biological father. Sybil finally gets the biological context that, years ago, felt like a threat.
But the biggest revelation of all is saved for a letter.
From Scotland, she writes this gut-wrenching final letter to Theodore. She finally tells him the full truth of Gilbert's death.
That she was ignoring him, reading a legal file, and frustrated, she told him, "Just go, Colt just jumped."
Not realizing he'd dive from a boulder onto a hidden rock shelf. She admits the grief and guilt weren't just sadness. They were an unbearable noise inside her, a scream living inside me.
And writing that down, she says it finally brought her silence and peace. She even quotes Joan Didion.
Of course she would. She writes, "What I have made for myself is personal, but it's not exactly peace. It's acceptance, not happiness."
And the transformation is complete. By February 2020, her life has totally shifted.
She suggests Theodore join her in Scotland. She's moved in with Hattie, describing the landscape as a golden glimpse of heaven on earth.
Her life, once defined by the control of her pen, ends in this place of radical openness.
And she notes Theodore will be coming with her on a trip back to visit Rosalie, who is, she says, the only person left who writes.
The very thing that isolated her became the map to her liberation.
The irony is just so powerful. Sybil, knowing her sight was failing, feared losing her ability to write her whole life's mechanism. And yet, facing literal darkness, she used the last of her sight to write the hardest truths of all. The structure she built to hide in became the instrument of her freedom.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, spread the word.